The Enterprise Forum has been around focusing upon enabling startups and entrepreneurs to start and grow companies for many, many years. How we do that is through doing sessions and activities which help to inspire innovation from thought leaders, such as last week we had our innovation series on food technology startups. We also create events around certain communities on an ongoing basis. So tonight's activity is being hosted by the Software Circle in combination with our evolving EdTech group. Just trying out a few events this year. If things go well this year on EdTech, we'll be expanding it next year. We also do a series of educational and training programs for the entrepreneurs, which I'll talk about in a moment as far as the details. And then the last piece to our four-part combination is the connecting with MIT. So we bring out great resources from MIT to connect with the entrepreneurs. We can also provide a conduit from entrepreneurs and startups back into the MIT community. Program portfolio is pretty broad and breaks down into three sections. One is the innovations activity, which I talked about earlier, which is a monthly innovation series on large hot topics or hotspots in the startup world. We also run a startup showcase in the spring called Innovation. Tonight's event is part of the community track, which for you is on the far right-hand side. We have 6 of those today, and EdTech will potentially be added in next year. And then we have an educational track, which ranges from an 8-week startup class program for first-time entrepreneurs to business plan evaluation clinics called the Launch Smart Clinics, Get Smart workshops, which deal with one functional area each night for the startups, such as term sheets, sales, marketing, HR for early stage companies. And then we also offer mentoring and office hours for our members. We do now about 40 events a year. In the past, we've done about 70 events per year. We've shrank down the number of events to be fewer so we can have higher impact events and spend more time with the entrepreneurs. We have published a full calendar up on our website, which you'll find a couple places, so you should be able to take a look at what might be coming up over the year and hopefully plan your calendar well in advance to join us at future events. In the near term, here's a snapshot of some upcoming events over the September, October, November time period. I might highlight things such as the talk from Dharmesh Shah from HubSpot being held October 15th. He's going to talk about a startup culture and also a view about what the future of innovation might look like coming up. If you're looking to do a comparison between, say, Harvard and MIT in the entrepreneur area, in November we've got an interesting little debate coming up about how MIT approaches startups versus how Harvard's doing it. So it should be a nice little tip and tap. And then we have a couple of software events or circle events also scheduled during that time period. The events we have are open to anybody from any demographic, any university, members and non-members. What we do offer is the opportunity and option to become a member, which gets you closer to the community. So a brief chat about our member benefits. If you do become a member, then you can get access to almost all of our events this year at no additional fee. The other ones which we'll be charging a fee for on a discounted arrangement for members would be the class and the spring Innovation Showcase. We also offer invitation member-only events for members. We have the mentoring services and Get Smart classes, which are also just for members, which are a bit more hands-on, higher engagement tutorials for the member activity. And then the Enterprise Forum of Cambridge is also part of a worldwide chapter organization. There are 26 chapters around the world. As a member, you get access to that worldwide connections of entrepreneurs and resources. And the membership fees for individuals is very affordable. $95 for a tech entrepreneur, and for a business professional, it's only $195. So we do encourage you to take a look at the option. Hopefully many of you will go ahead and join in the near term. If you do the math, if you do 2, maybe 3 events a year, it makes sense for you to become a tech entrepreneur. The break-even point's about 2.5. That's a simple math. Members, we've got literally hundreds of members. Each year we've got about 700-800 active members. Our community is about 10,000 over the years. Many people have come through the programs and been active at one time or another. This is some of the snapshots of some of the logos of the present members, but there are many, many more which are shown beyond here. This is the type of resource network you can tap into by attending our events. And then the other dimension is the sponsors. The sponsors are very important to us because they bring great resources for startup or early stage companies. They also provide some additional financial backing for the Enterprise Forum, which allows us to provide events at very affordable prices. So if you see any of the sponsors, and we'll talk about the sponsors for tonight's program in the future, these are the global sponsors or the annual sponsors for the Enterprise Forum. Overall, thank them when you see them around the marketplace. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Nish. You want to talk? Nish, you want to come up and talk?
Leadership positions within MIT, as well as MITx and EdTech, and we are going to hash out what's going on in the MOOC arena, what's the future of the MOOC. And I just wanted to know how many of you know what is MOOC? All right, 100%. Okay.
Not quite 100%.
Not quite. So we do have some introduction, which I'll give you, and then we proceed for what we call here is fireside chat. So this is not panel discussion. This is not question answer session, although I'll start with a few questions to break the ice. But this is very informal, so feel free to jump in and provide your input to us. So let me give it back to Kevin.
I'll do perfect. We're going to talk about the software circle. Unfortunately, Dave Pausner, who represents the software circle, is not here. As I mentioned, this is a joint event between the software circle and Nish's team on the EdTech side. The software circle does do events which are targeted at helping early stage companies either do software development or some early stage tools. They've got a pretty rich program planned throughout the year, and unfortunately, I don't see any of the members here today. So Nish, I think we'll quickly transfer over to your group. Pick up from there.
Thank you. So the EdTech group within the MIT Enterprise Forum started about 6-7 months back, and I'm very fortunate to have a group of very dedicated team with me, which is Elise Mosa, who is the co-chair, but right now she is in Beirut, where she comes from. And I wish her a lot of activities there, so I wish her good luck, and hopefully she can be back with us very soon. Then we have Rita Sahu. She is part of the OCW as well as MIT's Digital Technology Initiatives. Then we have Nava Pugh, who is part of the Angel Ed, which is a not-for-profit. Then we also have Larissa Newworth, who will join us and is fantastic in terms of all the PR that we are doing here. What is the mission of MIT Education Technology Group? What we are trying to do is fill the gap between academic communities and EdTech innovation community. As you know, Enterprise Forum is all about startups. It's all about innovation, getting into some of the funding and venture capital, as well as becoming very successful companies. And many of them have come through MIT Enterprise Forum. So we are trying to educate some of the venture communities what is going on in education and what are the areas they ought to be thinking about funding. As you know, in East Coast, Kleiner Perkins has funded companies like Coursera, Udacity, but we haven't seen a lot of that funding in East Coast, so we have to educate them. And what we are also trying to do is bring desperate groups which are out there within MIT community, just like Learn Launch and Genius here, and many other of these communities are coming together. We want to put them all together in terms of what is happening at MIT, so from within MIT outside, as well as from outside to MIT. And this is the critical need, and this is the critical gap which we are trying to fill in today. So moving forward, I do want to thank our sponsors for today. And Nutter, the law firm, has been very generous to provide us some of these funding for today's event. And as you know, you all enjoy some of the refreshments. Then we also have Marian Lieber Publishing, which is presented here by Bill, who is one of the editors working with me in the area of MOOC Forum Journal, which is one of the first journals in the area of MOOCs. Then Synaptic Global Learning, which is a company dedicated for online education and adaptive learning systems. And Exponential Tech Space, which is essentially proliferating a lot of information exchange between education technologies. So thank you to all the sponsors and for that. So today's event is very, very dynamite event, and I'm very happy and delighted to have two of the leaders which are truly trailblazers in the arena of online education, especially when we are looking at moving the envelope or pushing the envelope forward. As you know, one side with the development of some of the new digital technologies, MIT has now decided to put a lot of this effort under a separate office of digital learning, which is headed by Sanjay Sarma, and then of course edX has become its own entity, and now it is represented in this panel or in this fireside chat by Kathy Pugh. So let me have some introductions. So I'll ask Rita Sahul to introduce Sanjay Sarma.
Thank you, Nish. Sanjay Sarma is the director of the Office of Digital Learning at MIT. He reports jointly to the Chancellor and the Provost. The Director of Digital Learning, as the Director of Digital Learning, he's responsible for assessing how new models of online instruction might become an important part of MIT students' on-campus learning experience, and for shaping a clear vision for an educational model that blends the best of residential education with the best of digital learning and online experience. He basically has lots of responsibilities, and he is in charge of many different groups right now, and he's trying to get all of them under one umbrella. Thank you for being here, Sanjay.
Thank you. Let me now invite Bill Ferguson, who is the editor at the MOOC Journal, to introduce Kathy.
Thank you, Nish. Thank you, everyone. As Vice President of Educational Services at edX, Kathy directs and oversees the management of the course development teams and is responsible for university relations with edX consortium members. She brings extensive experience as a top executive in the software and financial services industries, most recently in charge of global services at Curion Corporation. Kathy has a nationally recognized track record of success in expanding and streamlining businesses. She has worked in long-established businesses as well as startups and brings her valued business acumen and organizational talents to edX. She probably doesn't want me to say this, but she said it in private, and it's on paper, so we might as well get good use out of it. When she's not at edX, Kathy enjoys tennis, swimming, rowing, cycling, and watching her son play hockey. She holds a BA in economics from the College of Holy Cross.
Let's welcome today's participants. Thank you. So this is some of my introduction. I'll be the moderator for today's event, and I have a long history of being engaged in different kinds of online learning activities, starting from MIT long time back, and now I'm getting into some of the MOOCs, and we have created some of the new ideas in the MOOCs, which is called adaptive MOOCs. So what I thought to do as a moderator is, the way we will progress here is I'll give you a very quick overview on the MOOCs, the way we have looked at it, and then I'll ask the members here for the fireside chat to provide some of the, their own take on the MOOCs and how they should be progressing in the future. And that's why our idea today is to look at the future of the MOOCs, prospects and pitfalls. As you know, MOOC, the whole movement really took everyone by surprise in some ways, and also by a lot of press which has gone on. There is not a single journal, education related, which is not talking about MOOCs. It's going even beyond educational arena. We are now in the training, as well as in all other arenas, we are also looking into the MOOCs. So what is massive open online course? The way it is described, I'll just put a definition out there, and you are welcome because this is fireside chat. You dispute it with me, debate it with the panel and everyone else. It's a course offered to the worldwide learners at no cost by the leading educators from top universities. But it is way beyond that, so I'm just going to leave at that for the discussion. And if you look at MOOCs, there are many different kinds of MOOCs. There are X MOOCs, and then there are C MOOCs, and then there is also A MOOCs. So what are these different kinds of MOOCs we'll talk about? I'll give you a very quick definition of that. And if you look at the focus of MOOCs, especially at MIT, Harvard, and Stanford, and Princeton, is innovation in open online education. So these are focus, and these are experiments, as they call it, the particle accelerator for education, which is what Anant Agarwal always says in his talks. And also the promise here is the democratization of education across the world. So it's a big, lofty promise with a lot of potential, but of course there are pitfalls. So we'll talk about those pitfalls. So this I just took out today from the definition of the MOOCs, which is given in the Wikipedia. Of course, we all trust Wikipedia, right? So if you look at that unauthenticated source in some cases, but X focuses on scalability, and again, I would want the panel to define that in some sense. The other one, C, focuses on community building as well as connections between a lot of different content. So we talk about X MOOCs and C MOOCs. But if you look at massive, open, online course, all of these terms, you can always try to interpret the way you want to look at it. And that's why you can see all of this interpretation. For example, massive. What is massive? Is 1,000 student massive, or is it 100,000? What is that threshold? If you look at open, are you talking about open content, or you're talking about free of charge, or you're talking about affordability? If you talk about online, is it local cohorts, or you're talking about worldwide cohort or real-time cohort? And then of course C, which is the course, is it a graded granting course? So there are a lot of definition of that. So MOOCs is a very generic term in some sense. So everyone looks at it from their own perspective. Now if you look at brief history of that, for those who do not know that, I would say the first MOOC was OpenCourseWare in 2001. Primarily because MIT opened up everything for the entire world, how the courses are done, and now there are over 1,200 courses in OCW, and of course Sanjay has some of that part of that effort, so you will see where it is today. And if you look at after that came Open Knowledge Initiative around 2003, I was part of that. Then after what that became, the Open Knowledge Initiative, OKI, turned into Sakai, and the Moodle about the same time it came on. Then there were Yale lectures and Berkeley free lecture videos. Then about, say, I would say 2006 or 7, and later on Khan Academy, which essentially provided a lot of open content. And finally, if you look at the precipitous event that happened in 2011, was the AI course taught by Sebastian Troll, and that really had 165,000 students. So these are the players that kind of started with the computer science course, and of course there were a lot of other efforts as well. But because of the sheer numbers, 165,000 students joining for a course which was not even properly vetted by Stanford. And I know many people, my colleagues in Stanford, once the registrar came to know that they have to give now certificate to 165,000 students, there was an uproar that no, we can't do that. So there are a lot of these issues as soon as we opened the genie out of the bottle. But as you know, once the genie is out of the bottle, you can't put it back now. So this is where the MOOC movement is. So after that, MITx and EdTech started with the president, current president, who was spearheading this effort, and of course our fearless leader Anant Agarwal, who did the first course in the area of circuits and the designing of the circuits and electronics, which also got attention of 155,000 students. And then of course we all talked about these big numbers. And suddenly, if you look at Chronicles of Higher Education, there were hundreds of articles coming out. MOOC is going to change the world, MOOC is going to do this, MOOC is going to do that. And even the dictionary has a coined term called MOOC. So now we are all MOOCing. This is a new term now. So with that, if you look at the growth of EdX, which again Kathy will talk more about, if you look at starting from MITx effort, now the recent addition as far as I know is Caltech. So we have gone through the Harvard, Berkeley, University in Netherlands, even IIT Bombay, which is my alma mater, UCL, and all of these other places, a lot of these international international universities as well, and it is growing. So the movement is growing, and of course, as you know, whenever there are movements, there are always some issues. So let me put out some issues. Low completion rates is often taught as the issue with the online courses. So if you look at the online MOOCs, 165,000 students joined, but only 2,000 completed it. So if you look at the percentage-wise, it's a very small number. We can debate it, and we will. Courseware, one size fits all, highly dependent on the video lectures, need more instructional design, quality of content is not always the same kind, not a personalized learning experience, a lot of students drop out because there is no personalization, auto-graded assessment are not perfect assessment, and sustainability in search of the revenue models, because most of these MOOCs are free. So now how do you make money? That's one of the issues which all the venture capitalists are now looking at. Okay, you've got 150,000 students, how do you monetize it? Now, what is the value of certification that is given out? But by the way, when I get resumes now for employment, everyone now gives them, I've taken 7 MOOCs. So MOOCs is making some difference in terms of employability. And of course, these all online courses have some of the traditional problem of plagiarism and authentication of the students. So I just put those problems out there. So now let me invite both the panel member today for the fireside chat, and let them give them 5 to 10 minutes in terms of giving them your opening statements. And then I have some of these questions that I put it out as the icebreakers, and then we'll take it from there. And hopefully you all can join in. And thank you. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And let's have a great debate. Thank you.